Good evening, and welcome to the weird and the wonderful with strange bones. That's me. So, we've been beset by absolutely freezing weather lately, which is probably not considered cold to a lot of people, but absolutely certainly is cold to those of us who are used to much, much, much warmer weather. It's not even quite winter yet, and good grief, it is freezing, so please excuse me for being huddled up and suitably frozen. So, we are continuing our journey around the world, looking at ghosts and cryptids. Hey, Taylor X, welcome, welcome. So, we started this journey with the idea that what we are going to be doing is going around the world looking at the paranormal and the supernatural with the idea that is there anything we can say is common regardless of country or culture? Are there any baseline rules for the supernatural out there that might indicate perhaps that it could possibly be real or maybe not? Um, is it just a load of rubbish? Are they moral stories? Are they just memories of prehistoric beasts? Or is there something to the tales that we should be aware of? As we go around, we are looking at one country at a time just to see what we can find. And as we do, please feel free to like, subscribe, join in, and send in your comments if you would like. And if you want to actually join us on the live, I will send out invites in a little bit to let you do just that if you wish to speak. If you don't want to, that's fine too. I will try to read your comments, and if they're appropriate to the live, then I will indeed address them. Um, just remember, though, we are respectful to everybody, and we don't judge anybody's beliefs. Um, and you may have whatever belief you like, and we always appreciate different viewpoints as long as you're polite about it. Now, we've gone to a lot of different countries around the world. We try to jump back and forth to touch on different cultures to contrast. But for today, we are back in Africa. And for today, we are going to be looking at Kenya. Kenya is a rather nice country. I have been there, and it is a very pretty place to go to. Lovely, lovely place indeed. Um, but does it have for us anything that is suitably terrifying? Yes, your favorite paranormal area. Well, hopefully you will have a comment, and if I get anything wrong, please do let me know. My research, of course, um, is only as far as I can go naturally, and I do apologize if my pronunciations are not up to scratch. I'm not an expert in all the languages, uh, so I have to work with what I have got. But nevertheless, we will do our best. So we start, as always, with the hauntings and the ghosts. And Kenya is said, at least, to have a number of interesting hauntings. Mokagetsi, hello, welcome, welcome, and gone. Oh well. But as we go through, we must realize again that we are jumping into a very different culture with a number of different viewpoints on what a ghost is or a spirit is, and whether or not they're good or bad, and how they are approached. Hey, and Cesar, hey, Tamira. Keep in mind, of course, that we have noted that when it comes to the view of ghosts and such, uh, if a country has a strong tradition of ancestor worship, and of course Kenya does, then of course, hey Zeus, um, then their viewpoints tend to be quite different to those that might be um, found in, say, the Western world. Hey, thanks, Zeus. That's awesome. Thank you for the rose. As I say again, do like, subscribe, join in, send your comments if you want to comment. I will send out an invite to guest along with if you wish to, but do not feel you have to. Let's just get started. So, the first place that we are going to talk about in Kenya is a rather interesting one, the Mbaraki pillar. It's a 50-foot tall pillar that is said to be haunted specifically by an Arab ghost. Why an Arab ghost, you might ask? And I'm not entirely certain, but we will certainly try and see what we can see about it. But it is said that this particular ghost is a good one and has varied healing abilities, which may or may not come in handy. Uh, Another interesting one, which is absolutely. Can I show the picture? I'm not certain. I must be honest with you. I'm very much learning how to do the technical aspect of these live things. Um, so I'm not always capable of putting in the fancier stuff, and I am working on learning how to put pictures in. I haven't quite finished my lessons on that yet. I want to, because some of these places that we talk about, I got to be honest with you, are absolutely beautiful. They're really fascinating. So it is in what I am wanting to do. Um, so I apologize if I don't. Um, but yeah, I'm very curious about a lot of these places as well, which really and truly give a different vibe to how we view things. Um, this next one that we're talking about is one of those weird places that, according to the proper way that culture and things are supposed to go, shouldn't exist. Weirdly enough, take it as you will, but it is a site of 9 standing stones in an area which shouldn't have had the technology, etc., to know so much about outer space and the star systems. But nevertheless, these 19 standing stones are perfectly aligned with certain star systems, and there are a few around Africa. And these ones are an astronomical calendar that are also said to be haunted, which is absolutely amazing. It's one of those special things. There's an amazing story. We haven't gone there yet, and we will. Believe me, we will. Among the Dogon, where they actually had knowledge of stars that the Western world never got with all their fancy telescopes um, until much, much later, and discovered that, in fact, these so-called primitive tribes were absolutely right. So this is one of these places which adds another whole fascinating thing that makes Africa, as you can imagine, just so amazing. We love that. So, such as it is, we move along then to the Ondiri Swamp, and it is the second deepest wetland in Africa, known for legends of disappearances. And here's the kicker, the bit that just tickles the spine a little. Many of those that drown in the swamp turn up somewhere else, or at least their body does. So, how does that happen? Um, Something to consider and look into. Absolutely a properly creepy place. Then, of course, we have another one of the deep, dark African forest, the Shakahola forest, where um, there was a cult tragedy with many unexplained phenomena and a terrible atmosphere. So, well, there's definitely some good places. Now, in amongst all of that, we have the additional folklore where they have the mythologies and stories and beliefs and things with varying cryptids and such, but also um, comments on spirits and ghosts, which obviously are quite important to what we are interested in. So, as we troll along, let's start with the Nyawawa, which is one of the most important ghosts of Lake Victoria, which is, of course, partly in Kenya, but not entirely. Uh, Now, what are they? Is there a ghost or spirit that is taking and hurting people by that swamp? That is an excellent question. According to the locals, yes. One of the points of our discussion, such as it is to see if we think that this might indeed be the case. And of course, where that comes in as important is where it starts to impinge on whether or not we ought to be worried about ghosts and things. If ghosts are not real, of course, we don't care. And obviously, then there would be another explanation for what's happening there. However, if they are indeed real and can affect us, then quite possibly we ought to be concerned and we should know more. And therefore, and as you'll see when we do the wrap up, there are a number of things that we have at least uncovered as being consistent indications from the varied stories that seem to turn up despite different countries and cultures, which is where it gets really interesting because when you have a culture or a country that really has absolutely no connection at all to another one, but they share beliefs in how things work, you start to say, hey, does this mean that there is a consistency of experience? And does this mean that such paranormal or supernatural things might actually be real? And that is, of course, the whole point. Um, so we hope to discover more. My broski, hey, welcome, welcome. Uh, so, yes, let us go on to the Nyawawa. Now, these are the unseen ghosts of a tribe that lives next to um, Lake Victoria, which is famously known for tormenting the local people. Now, in the village of Usenge, in the Bondo Western region of Kenya, um, the person that gives the story said he met the children of the Luo tribe in their place and had conversations talking about education, playing with them, talking about spiritual matters. And he went there just to experience Kenya and so on. And at one point, the conversation turned to, are there any things that you're scared of? And they went all very quiet, and then they mumbled just the word Nyawawa. And one girl, who was the most outspoken of all the children, spoke of these spirits originating from the lake that would torment the villagers at specific times. Now, make note of at specific times because times do seem to come up consistently that hauntings only occur at certain times. So there is that. Um, and she mentioned that the only way to get rid of them on the community's land was by continuously hitting the metals um, to make them go away. So it seems that, again, here we have another um, comment in that regard, that certain sharp sounds. Now, we know in China, when we spoke of things there, they use firecrackers. Um, Drums were used in other places. Um, and bells, of course, have been famously used to drive off spirits. So here again, striking metal. Um, so, according to the story that evolves from this, there are lake spirits. Now, they don't say exactly whether or not these are ghosts or other spirits. They seem somewhere between the two, we're not sure. Um, but you would be able to smell food cooking if you went past the lake at certain times, and it seemed a little bit odd. And later on, this person says they were sitting by the fire one night and was sharing the stories with some of the others about how the name sounded very odd. This was a Westerner that was explaining that it sounded very odd to her ear, and so on. And this was something that was of interest. And at about 3:30 a.m., one of the ladies woke her and said that you must go and shower now. And of course, she woke up. She's like, "Who the hell goes and takes a shower at 3 in the morning?" Um, but the lady was insistent, and so this person said, "Well, okay, fine." Um, so they went off out into the cold, um, went to go and have a hot shower, and she was getting ready for all of this. And then she remembered 3 a.m. is the hour that they refer to as Nyawawa time. And feeling a bit worried now, she went out to go out to take the shower. Pitch black, they're out in a rural area. But now she's getting a bit dodgy about this. She's feeling a little bit, wait a minute, not too happy about all of the stories and things. And she's wondering how good an idea this was. And all of a sudden, she smells cooking. Now, the interesting thing that she points out is that the stories that they tell, the cooking use that these Nyawawa do, isn't food traditional to the local people, and you can smell the difference. Um, and now, as she's standing there, she's like, I'm not entirely certain, but I can smell other cooking. And she's standing in the dark waiting to shower. And she's like, what do I do? So, not too sure of, it's not my beliefs and things, but just in case. So she grabbed a couple of pieces of metal and banged them together a bit. And then she couldn't smell the cooking anymore. And she went and had her shower, and it seemed all right after that. However, what actually happened? Was there something going on? Was there something more that she ought to have known? She said she never did find out, but when she spoke of it to the ladies who were her guides, they said, oh, of course, that's why we wanted you to get up, because we wanted you to see that we know and they are there. So, was there something out? Is there a tribe that lives somehow under the lake that causes trouble. Now, this is most interesting because, as we've seen from several different places, hey Papitas, welcome. As we've seen that we have tales of what we refer to as the shadow people, which seem to exist half in this world and half in another, that you can come through, that at times are able to just disappear and disappear, and other times seem almost solid, dark, spiritual type beings with glowing red eyes. Then, when we went to Saudi Arabia, we came across the jinn, which are described as being exactly the same thing. And now, here again in Kenya, totally different to all the places that we've looked at, you have a tribe, a completely separate people that can appear and disappear, that seem to only half exist in this world. So, is this confirmation of some kind of race or people um, that exist alongside us? Andres Cebeles, welcome. Um, Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it adds at least, hey Stehan, it adds to the questions at least that we are developing as we come along with uh, the paranormal and supernatural, all these commonalities in such different cultures. Hey Jaden. So, yes, we have that as a story. Maybe it is something to consider, and maybe it's just a story, but. Uh, Can we say that it isn't? As we go along, we find that there are a number of interesting um, stories of ghosts, more specific than um, whole tribes, and a couple of very interesting stories that have turned up. One was that when the person that told the story, when their parents were staying in Kenya. Um, their dad had to go on a work project and he was away. And that night, their mother had this terrible nightmare that, and she said, listen, I dreamt I was in a Land Rover. It was nighttime. And I was there with three other people and the driver. And there was this terrible thump. And the driver turned and said, my God, we just hit something. And they got out to look what it was, and there was a young boy that they had hit, or had hit them somehow. So this upset the mother terribly. The idea of hurting a child and everything. And she said it was so vivid. And then when their dad came back, she told him all about it, and he looked at her and he said, "My God, how did you know?" And he had been out in Kenya off uh, visiting a village, and while they were there, one of the children had run out in the dark and had run in front of a vehicle that had four people in it, and the boy was killed instantly. And it seemed that her mother had, perhaps through her connection with her husband, had seen exactly what had happened. And it seems that her mother was something of a sensitive to such things because as the stories go on, um, the same lady, the mother of the teller of the tale, as it were, says that uh, they were staying in a hotel and she woke up in the night with somebody tickling her feet, and she thought it was the kids playing, her and her sisters playing. So she looked down, and as a mother will, what are you sillies doing? And as she looks down, she saw these long white arms reaching down from the windows and touching her feet. And when she kicked at them, she heard laughter. Then she woke up and she thought, well, okay, it was just a dream, all good, we're okay, no problem. And laughingly, she told some others about this dream, and they said, oh, that's not a dream. Um, it's happened many times, and we're actually getting special glass put into the windows as far as we understand, ghosts can't pass through glass. Now, that's an interesting point because we have encountered a number of other stories in other places um, where people have said they've seen ghosts outside a window, but the ghosts haven't tried to come in. So, is this a point about ghosts? Can they pass through glass? It seems that ghosts can at least pass through walls and things, but why not glass? Is there something we should know? Well, here's a thought for you. As you know, throughout history, a great many cultures have said that crystals and things are powerful and are usable by psychics and witches and so on all over the world. Um, is glass something that works like a crystal might, that is in some way capable of stopping a ghost? Something to put aside and think about, to add to our list of special points. Maybe glass does indeed have some kind of ability to stop them, but certainly a suitably creepy, uh, creepy story at least. Um, and it seems that this is not the only set of stories to be found where ghosts seem to reach out and touch you for some reason. So I don't think I would want to wake up with that. Um, Now another story that was put up as happening in Kenya happened in around 2008, and it happened to a particular fellow who was not in a good way. Now, remember, we have discovered thus far that strong emotion does seem to have effect on ghosts and such. Hey, Mkize. So perhaps the fact that this particular person was depressed had an effect. Um, but around 3 p.m., rush hour traffic in Nairobi City, he was waiting to cross a quite main road, and he glanced around and saw two men seated on a powerful motorbike. And before he knew it, their bike started racing towards him. And it seemed almost as if they were looking at him, not where they were going. And he noted that though they had a helmet on, it was not a faced helmet, so he could see the face of the person. And he said he realized their eyes were egg white, staring at him. And there were no pupils or irises at all. Um, but he backed up a bit and the bike zoomed past. And not knowing what else to do, I suppose he crossed the road um, before he could really think about it. He noted that it was human shaped with a stylish uh, red jacket. Um, he couldn't remember what the passenger looked like behind. He was shocked from it. And he then realized as well that the motorbike was on the wrong side of the road going counterflow. And he thought to himself, well, that was weird. But, what are you going to do? So he carried on with life. And the other day, he was watching TV and he noted a particular advert that came out of nowhere. And this smoke-like figure pops up from the bottom center of the screen and noted a particular advert that came out of nowhere. Is something going on? So it seems that he was haunted both in real life and through the TV. Hey Vlados,